Hello, Michael. How you doing today?
Hi Eddie, I'm fine. How about you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for asking, Michael. Today, I wanted to ask you a couple of questions about your strategic scan service so that
Yeah,
users of the Cloutos Marketplace looking at your listing can decide whether this service is a good fit for their needs or not. I have three questions that I want to ask you. So let's jump into the first one, which is who is the best fit for this strategic scan service?
yeah, Eddie, thanks for asking. Good question. The best fit for this are the founders, the CEOs, operational and sales directors as well. And in other words, people who directly affect the strategy development of the company and the improvement actions. And if they're delivering the effort in executing their strategy, but it does not bring the desired results, and if they are out of the ideas to improve their business, or they just do not like what they're doing anymore, then they're the best fit because we really help to reinvent themselves and get a step-by-step plan to rise again.
Got it. So you mentioned ideally high level decision makers from VPs to ideally C suites that want to take their company in a different direction. So I'm assuming, and please confirm if this is correct or not, this is not for new startups looking to find their niche, but more for established companies that maybe hit a wall in their revenue growth and want to change things? Or would it also be a good fit for new companies to find their niche, product market fit? Help us understand that, please.
I would say it would be a perfect fit for the new companies as well, because look how it usually happens. There is a talented person who begins his or her business, whatever, and they think that, okay, I've got a great idea, I will deliver it to the market, and then it's gonna be super nice. And then they begin to actually build the business. But at some point, and this point is usually pretty close, they realize that, well, it's not going that great at all, and they face the challenges of the real world. And there we really help them to stay strong, to understand what is their value and what is the value they're bringing to the customers. And then when we put it all in one place, they really get this opportunity to reinvent what is not yet invented and to go to the market armed and dangerous in a good way.
Fantastic. It sounds like it's a process, it's a service, a diagnosis that can work for both established or new companies that want to have a third party perspective on reassuring truly who's the right target for their product, what are the right pain points, what are the right use cases, who should be the right leads, whether that is because they're going to a new market or launching a new product or just stumble upon maybe stagnation in their sales and they want to revamp, see if there is a new angle that they position. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would like to mention that it's a perfect service for people, for businesses who are going from one country to the other country, especially going to Western Europe, for example, and they want to understand what's the best go-to-market strategy for them based on the culture, based on the mentality of the country they're aiming, and there we are to help them to make sure that this whole journey will be successful.
That makes a lot of sense, especially when it comes to expanding in Europe. Europe is a
Yeah.
continent, but all the countries have different cultures, different languages, maybe different personalities or ways of approaching a sales conversation. And that's where your company can bring in that local expertise and help them identify what could be the right strategy. So now this takes me to my second question, second main question, which is, Michael, what are the components of this strategic scan so you can unpack this for the viewers of this video right now?
Yeah, so here with this strategic scan, we deliver 3 2-hour video calls where we deeply analyze the company's values, goals, and commercial structure to identify the key growth points and proceed with competition analysis to work out the best go-to-market strategy and create the tools which would help our customer improve the structure and increase the margins. So the key point is to make sure that our customer understands specifically where they are going and have a step-by-step plan to reach their goals in accordance to their values and in accordance to what they really want. Because how I like to say, and the reality proves that people who are going through the strategic scan with WinPeo are never the same again in a good way.
Makes sense. So through this diagnosis, they kind of, let's say, re-identify what the North should be for their campaign. And you mentioned something about the tools. You set up some tools. Can you maybe high level describe what could be some of those tools that could potentially be added to your client's tech stack? Is it something that they have to pay separately, those fees, or is it fee included in the service? But then do they own that technology afterwards? Help us unpack a little bit more what you meant by the tools that you would implement through the solution.
Yeah, sure. So when we're going through the tools, there are two different perspectives of how we understand tools with this service. So the first perspective is the tools like motivation schemes, for instance, or some structural adjustments of the company, or different tables they can use to make sure they improve the internal processes and adapt the internal processes to the actual situation they come into so that they're well equipped to keep going without losing time on things they don't want to lose time on. On the other hand, we're talking about tools we can recommend them to use in order to achieve their goals. And here we're talking about different sales tools and CRM, for instance, some calling tools, some emailing tools, etc., etc. So basically, we have a really good understanding of the toolkit the business requires to make sure they reach the goals they have. So depending on what goals they have, we recommend and create different tools for a specific business. That's about it.
Got it. It sounds like okay. It sounds like as you do the mapping, as you do the diagnosis, this strategic scan and identify what is the right process for them to continue to grow in sales, you also identify which tools are going to be the right ones. You said CRM, the right dialer. I imagine the right, I don't know, API connection, sales intelligence tool. And you
Yeah.
assess what if they have something already, is this optimized and maximized? Is it overkill? Maybe you can use something cheaper and not waste that much money, etc. And you just make sure that their process or whatever process you recommend to them, they have the appropriate tools to run everything well connected as a tight, let's say, a solid German engine, a car engine,
Yeah.
we could say. We could say that's a fair statement.
Yeah, that's correct.
Awesome. So in that case, I guess that leads me to my last question, which is what can a client expect in the first 120 days of buying this service? How does their journey look like? You mentioned they start with two sessions. I believe it was 2 hours. Maybe you can walk us through after they have those initial scoping sessions or strategic alignment sessions. What are the other time frames, deliverables, or milestones that your program reaches, and how long is it? Can you walk us through that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the whole thing takes place within 2 weeks maximum if the customer is ready. Obviously, because we're talking about 3 2-hour sessions and some extra effort from our side when we do the whole analysis and creating the tools and identifying the best practices for the particular customer. But normally, within 2 weeks, the customer receives the final product. And the first effect is that after the strategic scan with WinPeo, you as a customer understand what do you actually want and have your goals on paper. And surprisingly, but there are lots and lots of companies which do not understand what do they actually want. So they pretend to understand, they pretend to be someone who they are not. So we really help them to identify themselves and to really understand what do they want. And this is the first effect, which is reached within like 2 or 3 weeks from the very beginning, and this is the basis for their further development. And well, since you understand your place and value on the market and get a step-by-step plan of reaching your short and long-term goals regarding sales, operations, business structure, etc., you basically get the understanding of success as it is, and you're going step by step and experience it.
Got it. Now, through this process where they identify what their true north is going to be, how do we get there? Do you also, let's say, since a lot of times I'm assuming you get hired for this service to revamp a sales structure, a sales process, a sales go-to-market motion, in this service, do you provide maybe a sample lead list that once you create some messaging and create a sample process on how to tackle or how to bring this new product, let's say to market, or if it's not a new product, but maybe a new market, how to just take the product to market? Do you generate some sample lead lists, do some outbound to trial the messaging, or is it more like, hey, we analyze what you have and based on our experience, we give some recommendations, but not necessarily validate them yet with the market? Help me understand that if there's maybe a lead sample, maybe some outbound campaigns just to validate some messaging as part of this 2 3 week intervention process.
So, look, Eddie, great question. I think that the best answer here will be that once the customer goes through the strategic scan with us, once the customer gets the final product, then the customer understands that the sales and lead generation activities are in a good hands if they continue with us. So the lead lists and stuff like that is the part of our other services. And once the customer is ready to proceed, then they are very welcome to continue. But as of the strategic scan, when it goes as a separate product, it's more about helping the customer to understand who they really are and what they're supposed to do to make sure they reach their goals.
It's almost like the outcome of this strategic scan is the playbook, the strategy that they should use. And then you have other services in which they can continue to hire you to execute that strategy, or they can take it in-house and execute it themselves as they want. Is that correct?
As easy as that, yeah, it's perfectly right.
Awesome. All right. Well, that makes complete sense, Michael. I guess those are all the questions that I had for you today about your strategic scan. I appreciate that you share more details so that users of the Cloud's Marketplace looking at this video, checking your listing, can decide whether this service is appropriate for them or not. Michael, this was very helpful, and I guess I'll catch you on the next video. If they want to learn more about WinPeo, they can definitely come to the Cloud's Marketplace, look at your company, and check all the different listings that you have. Michael, thank you so much for your time. I'll catch you on the next one.
Thank you, Eddie.